Musician's block, writer's block, creative block. This is the expression used by composers and songwriters alike to describe the frustration of sitting down to write music and then nothing gets written due to some inspirational blockage. By the sheer amount of YouTube videos, web articles, and Reddit posts going over this topic, this is a problem that affects a lot or even all songwriters. However, in this video, I want to challenge the notion that musician's block is an actual obstacle. What if instead of an elusive block, the issue lies in something more tangible, like a lack of direction? Before I explain any further, if you like the video, please subscribe and do all the YouTube stuff below, and let's get into it. Many songwriters, when faced with the challenge of creating new material, often express sentiments like, I just can't find the sound I'm looking for, or this isn't what I heard in my head, or even, I just feel uninspired. These phrases contribute to the perceived ambiguity of musician's block. However, by reframing the issue as a lack of direction rather than an elusive block, we bring clarity to the situation. It's about not having a clear path in the creative process, rather than being hindered by an undefined or mystifying obstacle. Without some sort of direction to follow, you're just kind of throwing ideas at a blank canvas and hoping something sticks. This can lead to a lot of frustration because you could be writing for hours and actually just get nothing done. If I ask you, the viewer, to write me a song by tomorrow, what would your first question be? Probably, what kind of song do you want? And my answer to that is, whatever you want. That answer, whatever you want, is probably the death to all creatives. With every option available, it becomes really hard to just pick one and roll with it. Your starting point then becomes incredibly difficult to see because of so many choices to choose from. So let's try this example again. I ask you, the viewer, to write me a song by tomorrow. And then you ask again, what kind of song should it be? But this time my answer is, I want a classical piano piece in the style of Mozart in the key of G major. This is a far better starting point than just going from write whatever. My answer takes a thought process out of finding your starting point and where to extend your creative process from. The next step for you, if you aren't super familiar with Mozart's work, would be to research some Mozart pieces and look for the things he likes to do in his compositions. Afterwards, you take that knowledge and create your own piano composition in the style of Mozart in the key of G major. With direction, the writing process becomes super seamless and you get a lot more music done and more intention with the ideas going into it. Really, this video should be called How to Create Direction for Songwriting. But for this video to get any kind of views, I have to name it something super clickbaity, like musician's block isn't real, and if you don't share this video with 7 friends by midnight, a demon will haunt your family. Objection! A rebuttal I once heard to this idea of direction was not only creating music and getting past musician's block, but creating music you're super proud of. And I have 2 answers to this. The first is, I view being creative as being able to creatively output no matter what material is produced. So in my opinion, as long as you're writing new music, whatever it might be, you're succeeding in that regard. My second answer is, why does the music you write have to be something you view as spectacular? A piece of music being incredible is definitely in the eye of the beholder. So you may not view the music you wrote as a banger, but to someone else, that song is a straight heater. Also, having this mindset that every new musical idea has to be absolutely amazing will make it way harder to write anything because you're holding it to such a high standard. You can write music for the fun of it and have no expectations of it. This idea of creating direction is just to get you to write more music. Not everything will be amazing, but you'll be exercising the methods that you write music with, and you'll get more refined the more you do it. Most established artists writing albums will write between 20 to 40 songs for that album and then cut it down to 10 for the final release. Not every idea you write will be great, but some will. If you want a video on how to write a top 40 chart topper, I'll have to make another video on that later. So, how do we create direction? This is far easier to answer than it might seem. There are a ton of ways for musicians to create direction, but we'll be going over my favorites today. Timestamps will be in the description below for you to easily jump around. Also remember that these methods of directions are just starting points and you don't necessarily need to do everything the same as me. This will make more sense as we talk about the first method, which is drawing inspiration from world music. This is a great method to get out of your comfort zone and explore different rhythmic and tonal ideas. Let's say you want to write some music with a Latin American vibe to it. The first question you should ask yourself is, what kind of genres are there? Right off the top of my head, some of the most popular genres or styles in Latin America are rumba, salsa, and tango. So for this example, let's use a tango. The next step would be to do some research on tango, finding out the tonality used, the instruments most associated with the genre, and then any rhythmic figures. Tangos usually use the harmonic minor scale, so taking the key of A minor, the best chords might be minor 1, minor 4, and then a major 5. The most common instruments used for this style of music would be piano, violin, bandoneon, and guitar. And then finally, the rhythm mostly follows beats on 1, the and after 2, beat 3, and then beat 4. So now my starting point for writing my song is a tango in A minor using the chords A minor, D minor, and E major using these instruments in rhythmic pattern. This starting point is much easier to write something with rather than just thinking, oh, I want to write something Latin American inspired and then just hoping it comes to you out of the blue. This method of direction can be used for writing music like Scottish Gaelic music, Japanese folk music, or even Indian ragas. All will require some research on the tonality and instrumentation used. But you don't even really need to strictly write in that style. Maybe you're an acoustic singer-songwriter, and after you find an interesting chord progression or rhythmic pattern, apply that to your own playing and put your own flair on it. This is just an initial direction for you to start writing from. So just to recap, find a style of music you like outside the world of Western music, do some research on the rhythms, chords, and scales they use, and then apply it to your own music. The next method of creating direction is using other songs as your starting point. For this idea, I'll usually find 2 to 3 songs and then mash up the parts I really like from those songs to create something new. I really like the chords from the first song, but I really dig the instrumentation of the second. Then for the third, I'm copying the rhythm from its chorus. By the end of this process, I've created something new from these other tracks by taking these ideas from them. Now, I'm sure someone is gonna go in the comments and say this is cheating and essentially copying someone else's work. My rebuttal to that is, and so what? Composers and songwriters steal from each other all the time. Beethoven's main melody of Ode to Joy came from Mozart's Misericordias Domini. A recent example of this is Flowers by Miley Cyrus. The chorus of that song is pretty much I Will Survive by Gloria Gaynor and When I Was Your Man by Bruno Mars mashed together. The melody from Kiss Me More by Doja Cat is Let's Get Physical by Olivia Newton-John. Whatever banger of a song you're working on, I can guarantee you that the melody or chord progression has already been done in some Bach fugue or by another composer. So recapping this method, find a few songs you like and then take musical ideas for them and combine them to create something new. And the last method of direction I have for you today is using pictures, ideas, or characters as inspiration, which is one of my personal favorites. For this method of songwriting, you find a picture, or maybe it's an idea, or maybe it's a character, and you imagine what those things would sound like as music. So to better explain this method, I'm gonna make a song in real time using this picture of a sunset on a beach. And I'll talk you through my process as I go along. Alright, so here I am in Studio One with my picture of my sunset here, and the first thing I always like to do is pick out some chords. So when I'm looking at this picture right here, I'm thinking what chords would probably best match the vibe. So probably nothing too minory or sad or like aggressive. I'm thinking something nice and relaxing, probably with like a lot of colorful chords. And the first thing that's coming to mind for me is a pretty standard kind of pop progression, which is a 2, 5, 1, and then 5 of 2, secondary dominant. So I'm gonna write those chords down on my piano here, and then we'll take a look and see how that sounds together. So in the key of F major, I have a G minor, a C major, an F major, and then a D major chord, and that sounds like this. So the next thing I'm gonna do is change up the rhythm of the chords a little bit to kind of give it some more groove. So with the new rhythm, this is what we have now. And I'm thinking for this song, I really want to do something orchestral. So eventually we're gonna blow up this piano kind of reduction into that. So the next thing we're gonna need is a melody. And then looking at the picture, I really want to have something kind of playful, nothing too like serious, something more kind of carefree. So now with my melody with the chords, it sounds like this. So now the next thing I'm gonna do is I wanna add some strings. So I'm gonna be doing the bass kind of strings first. So for orchestral music, that's gonna be the cello and then the contrabass. So that's what we're gonna add now. So now I have a bass and a cello playing the bass line from the piano reduction, and that sounds like this. So now we're gonna fill out the other registers. So I'm gonna add the violins and probably the violas now. So now with the violas and the violins, we have this. So now I'm gonna add another set of violins that's gonna be playing the melody. So now with my melody, we have this. So now the next thing I really want to do is add in a harp to kind of mimic the water here. I kind of want to have some arpeggios just kind of flowing to really imitate the water. So I think that's the next thing we're going to add. So the next instruments I want to add are some woodwinds. I want that to kind of imitate the sun right here to kind of be like a sparkle. So I'm going to add that now. So this is my flute idea. So I added the clarinet and then a cabeza. I feel like that adds in more of like the beach kind of vibe. So this is what that sounds like now. So I can keep building this out, but I think you get the idea. I'm picking different parts of this image to kind of invoke in the music here. So I'm gonna play my entire thing I've just made from start to finish, and that'll be it. And that's gonna do it for this video. I hope I helped shed some light on the mysteries of musician's block and gave you some new ways to create more music. If there are any tips I missed, please comment them below for others to learn from. And I'll catch you on the next one.